Welcome to the White Sox Recap Podcast. I'm Ryan McGuffey. It's been a bit. Happy New Year from the White Sox Recap Podcast. Usually this is the time of year where we're gearing up and thinking about, pitchers and catchers, three of our favorite words in Chicago. But because of the Bears' success, it's kind of paused that for now, which quite frankly, as a White Sox fan, that's okay. However, there is some excitement. And we're going to get into it on this edition of the podcast. And Sox Fest is brewing, so that usually equals excitement. Maybe not the last couple of years, but we're going to talk about it. Jonathan Hood, my guy, me and Hoodie are going to go toe-to-toe on how we are going to grade thus far, the White Sox offseason. Because technically it's not over. Maybe this is the team. We'll talk about that, but we're going to give Chris Getz and company a letter grade. An incomplete doesn't count. I'm throwing that out in the intro in case Hoodie wants to try to give it an incomplete. It's not going to work, and it's all brought to you by our friends at Sinus and Snoring MD. Cap, yeah, that guy was a snorer. I've known him a long time. That dude snored his butt off. Not anymore. You know why? Because he called Sinus and Snoring MD.com. He called them, and he actually visited the website. You can call them at 847-886-0875. The cold weather's here. Allergies are up and down. We're getting warm weather mixed with cold weather. That's a disaster for sinuses, and it certainly creates snoring. Breathe and sleep better. Go to sinusandSnoringMD.com. On the back end of this podcast, you heard MLB Network. Maybe you didn't. They did a breakdown of their favorite White Sox lineups of all time. Matt Vasgersian, closet White Sox fan, and Harold Reynolds gave their teams. That got Hoodie and I thinking maybe we should do our own version because I don't think we loved their teams. So we'll get into that too. We'll have some fun. Jonathan Hood joins me on this edition of the White Sox Recap Podcast, and it starts right now. Oh, Hoodie. Are you learning a new pitch grip here for those watching? Are you learning a new a cutter, a two seam?
I've been married 25 years. I've mastered the palm ball very well.
I've been married 18, and I'm right behind you. It's one of my it's one of my favorite pitches.
Exactly right. Oh, it's always handy if you'll pardon the expression.
You don't need a catcher to put the sign down. It's usually already available for you.
Absolutely.
Good to see you, my friend. How you been?
I am great. I cannot wait for White Sox baseball in general. I mean, we've got really chilly and cold temperatures, so you know what that means. Pitchers and catchers report real soon, and I cannot wait for baseball. Green grass, the bright sunshine.
Seeing the sights with Camelback Ranch mountains in the background. But I will say the Bears have tempered we don't get the gift that the Bears have given us this year, so it's nice to kind of move the chains where we look and go, oh God, it's already mid-January as we record this. So pitchers and catchers are going to come a lot sooner than we are used to here in Chicago, which is quite nice. Thank you, Bears.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think a ramp up after the Super Bowl championship right into spring training. I think that's a good ramp up in the month of February.
All right. So ESPN, I'm not sure if you saw this, but ESPN put an article out on Wednesday of kind of the winners and losers and teams that still need to make a move in their off seasons. And I don't know the last time I saw this. Now, you and I can probably attest more than most people, and a lot of White Sox fans can back us up. Winning the offseason, no trophy for that, because I remember 2014 when Melky Cabrera and David Robertson and Jeff Samardzija was like, oh, here they come. Look at the White Sox. And that team might have been one of my least favorite White Sox teams of all time by the time it was all said and done. But I think this one is different. The White Sox and the Cubs, probably because of what they did in the last week, and no one really cares about the Cubs if you're watching or listening to this, but both were listed as winners. So let's get into the White Sox offseason thus far. And I want you at the end of this conversation to give a letter grade. You can't give incomplete. You heard me say it in the open. Yeah, can't give incomplete. But the White Sox have had some interesting moves, most notably Mooney Murakami, because if you go back 6 weeks and you look at Murakami's projected market, I don't think there was anything less than a 5-year deal I could find from all the projections, whether it was MLB trade rumors, ESPN had him at 5 for 90. There was a 6 for 110 I saw. His market, for whatever reason, A lot of people were worried about the one-dimensional players, the contact and whiff rate in Japan, and how it translates to America. Insert Chicago White Sox and creativity in a multi-year deal, a 2-year deal. I don't really see any risk in this deal whatsoever. 2 years, $34 million. And not just that, you open up a new market possibility for the White Sox, because if you look, you could sit there and we go, oh, yeah, they had Fukudome. Well, the Cubs brought Fukudome over, not the White Sox. He was on the back end. Tadahito Iguchi was the last. Him and Shingo Takachi were the last 2 success stories. Yeah. But let's be honest, that's 20-plus years ago. I love that Shingo was Murakami's manager. I think that's fun. Maybe you can dip in to your alums who have actually had success here. But I think that signing is going to impact how I grade, how I give Chris Getz and company a grade. What was your reaction to that signing? Because I do think it made the White Sox a little bit more interesting heading into 2026.
So while I answer that question, I'm going to need you to move that that computer to the White Sox side of things. It's, again, this son of a bitch does this all the time. He wants me to answer questions with Ernie Banks staring right at me.
You know what I love about you?
I just need, if we're doing a White Sox podcast, again, can I get the White Sox in your background? For God's sake, I got 2 Sox caps behind me in my background, along with my logo. Could you just do a brother a favor, please? Can I get Ozzy in the background?
We get 6 minutes into a podcast, and this is what happens. I will say this.
What?
This is not a New Year's resolution for you. You hold people accountable, and I love that about you.
Yes. Well, yeah. Well, I mean, I just want to do a Sox podcast without Ernie Banks. All right. Let's play 2 behind me, if you don't mind.
Go.
Thank you. Now we're doing a White Sox podcast. Got to remind this guy every time. So here's the thing. You and I are going to go to a lot of White Sox games this year.
Yep.
Never put the media credentials aside. We want to laugh and have fun. We're going to go to a lot of Sox games. But the reason why we're going, not because we enjoy each other's company and that we're friends, but also we've got 4 guys that we're going to see every single game. And it's at the top of the lineup, right? I told you last year that I'm a big Mydroth Mark. I'm a big fan of his. I think he hasn't even done a ton yet. I just think that he has it to the point where I feel like I'm not getting back on those buses. I'm staying here, right? He's got a swagger that I like, a Southside swagger. So it's Mydroth and Teal. It's Montgomery and Vargas. And now with Murakami. Okay, so you know what the White Sox have been all our lives? They've always brought an attraction in, right?
Yeah.
A guy that's long in the tooth, some guy that comes from the scrap heap. But here's a guy, if he swing and miss, you know what? I think that he could be able to learn while he's with the White Sox. And if he's hitting a ton of home runs and he strikes it the rest of the time, you know what? If he starts off 6th or 7th, I think he's going to be 7th in the lineup.
Do you really think he's going to be that low?
Yeah, I think at the beginning, sure, because you still have Robert, you have Benintendi. Now the question is,
oh God, wow,
in that spot, right?
You just killed my buzz.
He's not going to disrupt me like the last few years.
Okay.
Because the top of the lineup is the reason why we go through the turnstiles.
Yeah.
See, Guff, it's the top of the lineup. If this guy is going to be 6th or 7th in the lineup, then you know what? We don't go to the bathroom right away. We don't go get our concessions right away. All right, let's see what this guy's going to do. Might be a home run. Look out, right? So he's an attraction for the White Sox. So when I look at this lineup, Robert and Benintendi are still there, but the top of the lineup, that guy, and then trying to figure out who's going to play right field, that's the question I have for the White Sox. But I feel good about the young players on this roster based on what we saw last year.
And not just that, they're still coming. I mean, the crown jewel might be Braden Montgomery. That's my favorite part, is that there's still more in the toy box. And for so long, you look in the White Sox cupboard and it was pretty damn empty. Or those canned goods that you forgot about, and you're like, are these still good enough to donate? Yeah. That's what the White Sox cupboard's been. You look down in AAA, you got 32, 33-year-old veteran outfielders trying to get a chance to get back to the big leagues. It's not the case anymore. I don't think it'll be all that long. And we saw it last year with the way that they brought guys up as soon, like they brought in Mydroth and Caro in April. I love that. That was a different. That showed me a lot more than past White Sox front offices, that when you're ready, you're coming. It doesn't matter about time or Super 2 or yes, that stuff matters, but it's not going to impact decisions. And I love that. And Murakami is the biggest. I think he's the most fun question mark in the entire equation, because I don't know if he's going to hit 40 or 14. I don't know. I don't even think it matters, because the White Sox showed me that they can be creative. when quite frankly, I had removed the word creativity kind of a way out of the conversation with them. Mm-hmm. And by bringing him in, if he finds a way, Hoodie, like let's say he struggles, which most people do when they make that's fine. If he finds a way to hit 25 plus, do you know what type of protection that does to the rest of those young guys? Like everyone knows now that Colson Montgomery can hit 30. We know that. Like that's already been proven. Now that you can possibly protect him with a 25-year-old Japanese left-handed slugger, and I think Kyle Teal's, like to me, I'm hitting him probably 2. Yeah. Right? In an ideal scenario, I'm hitting Kyle Teal number 2. Other than right field right now, which I still think is a big-time question, okay? Like Benintendi and Robert aren't playing there. I would still, to be honest with you, that's why the graphic says ... thus far ... because I still see a scenario where Luis Robert is not playing center field for the Chicago White Sox in an ideal world. And Benintendi could be a hybrid left fielder, hybrid DH, and be a rotational player. And that's what I think he is. But we've talked a lot about Murakami. You look at what Sean Newcomb was arguably the best left-handed reliever on the market. Mm-hmm. I was a little surprised that he chose the White Sox. $4+ million. It wasn't like he didn't get paid. He got paid the $4+ schmil. But you look at his splits last year, that guy was fantastic. And to have a dominant lefty out of the bullpen, and we know there's no guarantees. The bullpen volatility is as certain as death and taxes. I mean, it's bullpen volatility. Sure. But Sean Newcomb, and then the Anthony K project is what I'm calling him until further notice, because he is. And
just remember, every kiss begins with K.
So I like that. We have the Anthony K project. It's like the Alan Parsons project. Every kiss begins with K. Yeah. There's a t-shirt there I think we're going to come up with for the podcast.
See?
We've seen the success the White Sox have had with reclamation projects. That dates back decades at this point. And I'm curious to see, I mean, Bannister gets a lot of credit as he should in the pitch lab, but no Ethan Katz now. I still think there's carryover there. Like Eric Fetty's the latest example of success. Probably not even Adrian Hauser. He's probably the best example. He wasn't brought over from overseas, but I think from like the $50 million the White Sox have spent, when you add up the totality of the multi-year of the deals, it's a really intriguing, pretty low risk, high reward scenario.
It's a C minus.
Is that your grade?
I think it gets there, and I think it was going to be lower than that if we didn't make that deal to get Murakami over here.
Okay.
I think that when I look at the totality of this roster, as I mentioned, the top of the lineup is great. Is going to be interesting to watch. Let's put it that way. It's going to be interesting to watch. When I look at the rotation, so at this point in time, I see Smith.
Yep.
I see Martin.
Yep. Those are your two. I'm with you. I'm loving this part of the conversation already.
So then we mentioned Key Burke.
I'm putting Burke over here.
Oh, okay. So you still need to fill that hole because you still have the Cannons.
I'm putting him over here.
The Thorpes. And then, knock on wood, this year you and I are going to be at the rate seeing Hagen, Smith, and Schultz at some point.
I 100% agree.
Okay.
So we have to are we putting Anthony K over here because you signed him as if, yes, he's that guy?
Thorpe.
I got Thorpe over here.
Over there. Okay. So then you need to fill the bill there because you need 4 or 5 in that spot.
I'm kind of like Anthony K to me, for those who are watching, is more of like a half because I don't know yet.
Right.
So this is my biggest problem with the roster is that I could use a Jose Quintana who's still out there.
Sure.
I mean, is he going to make you go to the park every 5th day? No, but is he going to solidify the rotation and eat innings? 100%.
Well, give me a 4th starter before we get a 5th. Because
it might be Jose Quintana.
Okay.
I think they need another vet. I do. And then let those other guys that we named, the 5, and let's not count. I'm going to eliminate Smith and Schultz because they're still developing and they're not going to be here out of spring training.
At some point this season, I hope to see them.
They will be here.
Because I saw
barring injury, barring a setback, they're going to be here.
Okay. So that's why it's become C- because you're not finished yet. Like I believe offensively, you're going to get what you're going to get. We do have to wonder what's going to be in right field, but the majority is finished.
I need a right fielder. I know.
Okay, well, then that could be, is that Kepler? Can Lenine Sosa play right field?
Oh, God, no.
Okay, then that's a big hole right there.
I know. And that's why, I mean, that's why we're like, you could bring Michael Tauchman back. I know it's not, but I'm just telling you that there are guys, like, that's why Cedric Mullins hurt. I thought Cedric Mullins made a lot of sense for the White Sox. $7 million. It made a lot, but they're looking to, they need a bridge to Braden Montgomery. You can't just, Brooks Baldwin's not you can't be, and I still think, I really believe that they're going to try to move Luis Robert. So that's going to take away from your defense, as we know. So now you're going to have a problem up the middle, but we won't talk about what's not happened yet. So I'm with you. Void in right field. My biggest concern heading into last year was, how are these guys going to pitch if they've never pitched 100 career innings? I kind of have some of the similar questions. I guess if I were naming a most likely to step in that fourth spot, it would be Sean Burke by default. He's got control problems. I think Cannon, if you told me Jonathan Cannon ended up being a seventh inning guy, I would say, yeah, I could see that. I think he's got really good stuff for like 2 pitches, which tells me he could probably get a couple miles an hour on that velo by pitching late out of the bullpen. It'd be kind of nasty. So I don't know if he's there's more questions than answers, which equals CC minus to you. And I think, and this is the one that really chaps my ass. Not having a ninth inning guy really just, I don't like it. I don't like it. Not when you had Kenley Jansen for 1 for 11 go to Detroit. Not when you had Kyle Finnegan go 2 for 22 to Detroit. Those were the type of guys. Yes, they went to the team. You basically said, here you go, Detroit, finish your roster. Instead of letting us reap the rewards and then trading them to you at the deadline, they got both of those guys. And then even Kirby Yates. I was even pounding the pavement for Kirby Yates, who had a horrific year last year in LA, but wasn't hanging it up yet, who has shown he's healthy in the offseason, just signed 1 for 5 with the Angels. And that's this, like, I'm like, I know he's like 36, but 37. But those 1-year prove it guys, we talked about that. The White Sox are the perfect reclamation, and you can give Kirby Yates what he wants, which is an ability to save games. I look at the back of his baseball card. It says career saves 99. Oh, okay. And right now I'm looking at Jordan Leisure, 7.
Well, how about this? If you could guarantee me that you could be a +9, +11 on the win total from last year, they probably would have gotten a closer. But I don't know if they see themselves out of the 60s in the win total this year. Maybe that's one of the reasons why. Because when you're a bad ball club over 100 losses, that guy is sitting there like the Maytag repairman. He never gets a chance to close games. He'll get in, but he'll never be in his role. That's maybe one of the reasons why they didn't look into it this year.
But I see, this is where I'll push back on that. I'll push back on it in this way. The Chicago White Sox last year had 24 blown. First of all, they only had 49 save opportunities. That's your point. Yeah. But they had 24 blown saves. Okay. 24 blown saves. And here's the stat. You want to talk about, will it improve 8 to 9 wins? They were 15 and 36 in 1-run games. And you and I watched 159 of those 162.
Yeah.
How many they didn't give away as many as they did the year before when they broke the record for most, but they sure as hell gave away a lot of games in the 9th inning. And I'm not even saying Kirby Yates is some kind of, he's going to, but when you have a young bullpen and you're trying to solidify roles and trying to help your manager by saying the 9th inning is Jonathan Hood's, work backwards from there. I think that's what a young team needs. And so there's no wrong. There's a lot of playoff teams right now that are sitting here having the same conversation and are going to go into the season, a la the North Side, without an established closer and figure it out. So I just thought this team, for a small amount of money, and it's $5 to $10 million, could have plugged and played a guy there. I really do.
That's a Jerry question. As you well know, you only have a few funds in your wallet to spend, and this is where it is. See, this is why we drink heavily at the games. You have to understand. The reason why the Miller flows, McGuffey, is because it's like, so I don't have to talk about management. We just focus on the ball club, how the ball club's getting better with the youth, and then don't worry about upstairs.
That's fair.
Because these things, we talk about it now, but once we're in the seats, we're just rooting for the kids, man. The kids are all right. And hopefully when the team is ready to turn, that they will be able to allocate those funds to where it needs to be.
I feel like they will.
Well, there's a number of players on this roster now, some of those veterans that we're talking about, like a Benintendi, like a Robert, whether they're here at the beginning or at the deadline, they won't be here.
They
Hopefully
won't.
you could flip them for something special. This whole thing, by the way, you talk about with Robert. Okay. So we'll throw it out there again like we did last year. Hey, Cincinnati Reds, you did nothing in the offseason, Zippo. And you were flirting with Robert before.
Yep.
Do you want him now? Since you did nothing. And if I'm Francona, I'm pissed. I was out of baseball, came back and straightened out the Reds to get us in the playoffs.
And then your reward was the Dodgers.
then the reward, and then the reward in the offseason is now you're good.
Nothing.
Because you're Francona. You'll turn water into wine because you're Terry Francona. How about a little help? So you asked for Robert before, you could not come up with a deal. Okay, how about now? Want him now?
Especially when forget the Cubs. You're not the Cubs with those resources, but the Pirates are making more moves than the Reds. You know, the Pirates are saying we're going to at least give Paulskin something to keep him happy. I'm with you. And I saw the possible trade report from Cincinnati. Gordon and I have been talking. Gordon Whitmire does good stuff for them.
Yeah. But
you know how the Sox are about eating money and then thinking, well, if we're going to do that, you need to give us more. And I think the Cincinnati Reds are still very live in this conversation.
Let's go.
So the White Sox are willing to eat a lot of money, like half the money for Luis Robert. The Reds have a very intriguing comp pick, which you can trade. I've seen that being floated out there, but they still want these high-end players. You know, to give something, you got to get something. It's got to go both ways. So there's still time. We've seen the White Sox deal in spring training before. You look a couple of springs ago when they dealt Dylan Cease. So my dream scenario is opening day at the ballpark is at Rate Field. It's ice cold because that's just what's going to happen. Yeah. Cold beer's flowing because you could just hold it and it's going to stay cold. And Luis Robert is not in the starting lineup. That's just my personal. So what's your grade? You're going C or C minus?
It feels like C minus because you still have some holes to fill. Like we said, I have no idea who's playing right field.
Yep.
And just like first base coming into this season, how long had we thought about who's going to play first base for the White Sox? I haven't thought about
30
that
years.
Since I was a child.
It's literally you have to go like pre-Greg Walker.
Yes. That's the last time I thought who's going to play first base. And like Walk took care of it. Thomas took care of it. It was
Canerco,
Abreu, no problem. Yeah.
Even Andrew Vaughn for like three years of bad. But like now we have a first base problem.
So now the same thing with right field. I don't know what we're doing in right field, and we don't know what's happening with the back of that rotation. And for the Sox fan that's listening, says, "Well, does it matter?" Yeah, because we went from 41 wins to 60 wins.
That's a big
and I expect a lot more. I mean, so that's a big 19-win swing from last year. So now I expect to get into the 70s. But how do you do that if you don't have a full complement of starters? And the other thing too. You know, for years, you and I as Sox fans, we knew who would get the ball, right? Opening day.
Yep.
Now it's Giolito, Cease, you mentioned, Crochet, Sean Burke, and then 26.
Shane Smith will be this year. That'll be another one. It has to be Shane Smith, right?
Shane Smith's got to get the ball, yeah.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
That's a great point. Like the days of just going, it's going to be Burley. For 12 years in a row, it's just going to be Burley. I think they gave Contreras one in there when they won the World Series. Yeah, you're talking me off of my B minus because B minus is above average. But I am
fans. You're better than that.
I know you have a little bit more. You have a little bit more leather on your tires than I do. Not much, but a lot of pain. I've used a lot of my copay up on this White Sox therapy. So
yeah,
I'm impressed by the creativity of the Murakami deal, but I shouldn't give all my letter grade to that. Maybe it's a C. I think you may have talked me down to C plus. I can't go lower than C plus. I think there's more to come. I really do. I hope. And I guess if there's not, we'll talk about this in a few weeks because I'm with you. Like there's just too many holes right now to walk into opening day with. There's just too many, especially in your rotation when you're trying to protect. You can't be hoping for Hagen Smith and Noah Schultz because you're going to protect those guys when they're up here. So you need to protect them with another veteran, whether it's like a Martin Perez type. You need to, he's back out there. I mean, Quintana would be the guy go, okay, let's go ahead.
But Guff, real question. Because we need to come up with an answer here before you click off on this podcast. So what do we do with Lenyn Sosa? What is he? What's his position? Because there's no room in the infield right now. So where's he supposed to go?
I thought he'd be part of a trade. He was a nice bright spot last year, but he's fundamentally, we've seen it too many times to say he's a fundamentally good baseball player. He's not. He's not a smart heads-up baseball player. So, I mean, and here's the thing. They tried him at first base. That didn't work either. Like, there were multiple times he did not catch the baseball. So,
I'm not ashamed to say it.
Twice
I had 2 outbursts at the rate. Him and Michael A. Taylor.
Oh, Michael A. We don't have to worry about him coming back, obviously.
But it just, day game, 4 Millers in. Respect 90, you son of a bitch. It's something along those lines. And then Sosa was like an error, like another error.
Sosa was, and it was
physical error.
Physical. That's exactly what it was. It was physical. To be honest with you, he's a platoon DH with Benintendi.
He's gonna sit there, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if you're asking, I would platoon him against lefties. It's not sexy, but like, I don't think I'm congratulations on hitting 20 homers last year. He was a 101 OPS plus guy. Like, he just, he's not a fundamentally, from a position standpoint, he hit a funny part was, though, he's a reverse split guy. He had 17 of his homers were against righties. So who the hell am I to know? I don't know. I don't have a spot for Lenyn Sosa.
Okay.
He's not. So a nice transition into, we should actually play the opposite of this, our not favorite White Sox lineup of all time. Maybe we will. Actually, you know what? Put that in the idea bucket. MLB Network they've been going around the horn doing their favorite all-time teams and favorite lineups from each team, and they did the White Sox this week. And we know Matt Vasgersian is a Sox type guy, grew up on the White Sox. Harold Reynolds also was a part of it. Harold Reynolds had Shoeless Joe Jackson.
No, man.
Okay, so we're gonna give this. You did a good job. He texted me. Hoodie texted me this week. He's like, "Yo, have you seen this?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "We should talk about it." Our caveat here: if it's your favorite, you need to have seen this player play games, either with your eyes in person or on the television. Most likely a little bit of both. Whether you met the player or not, that'll be, I think, part of our conversation here. But your favorite lineups of all time. So I go back to, we're not far off. You said what, 81, 82-ish?
Yeah, it was like going to the ballpark at 80. I'm 8 years old. I'm starting to do my own lineup with my own man. And so, Harry Carey and Jimmy Pearsall still doing the games, like, here comes La Russa. He's a lawyer. Look out, Harry. Here he is. He's a lawyer.
Yep.
So some of that stuff, right? So for me, I just did position.
So did I.
Position by position.
And I'm 80. So my first Sox game I ever went to was 87.
Yeah.
Sat in upper deck left field. And the first games I really started watching was like 85. So I'm right there with you. So we're going to have some overlap here. And I guarantee you there's going to be some names that don't come up too. All right,
just a point of fact, a lot of the tickets I got was because of perfect attendance.
Oh yeah,
you'd get those because they would be on the left field line pole, but still.
Yeah, obstructed view. Yes. I had perfect attendance and Book It. Remember Book It?
Book It, I do remember Book It.
Yeah, the old Book It. I suppose that's making a comeback now, which I think is amazing. That people like Friday night at Pizza Hut is going to be a cool thing again. So Book It. I had a lot of White Sox upper deck tickets because of Book It. So
the idea of the Pizza Hut fine dining with the checkered tablecloth.
Remember, that was a thing in Portage, Indiana. Like there'd be if you walked in at like 6:30 and thought you were sitting down, good luck. Like you're going to sit there and play joystick Pac-Man until your parents were out of coins, and somebody was pissed that they were still waiting. So
that's the best, man. The best.
All right, so let's go. Let's just go infield outfield. Let's start with catcher.
So I was so excited when I found out that the guy that was raising his arms for the Red Sox is actually coming to my team, and that's Carlton Fisk. Fisk's first game with the White Sox was against the Red Sox at Fenway Park. That game is on YouTube if people want to see it. He was on Channel 9.
Yep.
You could see that whole game, and Fisk had the game-winning RBI when that was a thing back then.
People were like turning on the Red Sox front office.
Yeah, because Fisk now he's part of my team, the famous Carlton Fisk. So there's no finer catcher for me than Fisk. No shot at AJ, but Fisk is the guy.
I guess mine could be taken as a shot at AJ, and it's not Carlton Fisk either. And this, I guess I'll be the first to say, don't meet your heroes, because I've told this story before on the podcast on NBC, and I don't know if I've told it here, but I went to a game as a kid. Ron Kittle picked me up for a game when I was like 8 or 9 years in 1990. And not a great experience with Carlton Fisk. So great baseball player, and I was ecstatic he was on my team. I'm gonna go with Carco, man. Like Carco until the possibility, and that's why it's a shot at AJ. It might be a shot at AJ. I think I was like too old to truly appreciate the signing of. Like, I'm in my 20s. I'm covering the team. I think the AJ Pierzynski signing was the one pivotal, like, turnkey moment for the 2005 White Sox. But Ron Karkovice, so like for me, even though the Fisk was the catcher until like 91 or 92. They had that like Frank Thomas transitional moment where they just started making him more of the DH, and Carco is the guy. And for the longest time, maybe until current, they couldn't develop a catcher and not named Ron Karkovice. So Carco just like, he was the guy who was 26, but he looked 45.
Yes, that's right.
And so as a kid, that dude just out there catching. Was he a great player? Was he an all-star? No. Was he out there playing 100+ games a year and being the White Sox backstop? He defines to me a lot of those like transitional moments between 86 to 90 when they had those like back-to-back drafts of Frank and Robin, Alex Fernandez, and Jack McDowell, when they just got it right for 4 years in a row. I was a fan of those 4 shitty teams in order to get those picks, and Carco was on them.
If Guff would have been old enough, he would have asked for Hawk to stay in the position as GM, because it's nothing like a GM.
Left?
Yeah, they're putting my Hall of Fame catcher in left field. We're going to put Fisk in left field. Yes.
We're going to ruin his needs forever.
So he would have voted for Hawk to stay more than a year as GM, as he put my favorite catcher in left field. Outstanding.
Probably. Well, maybe it would have gotten us further away from bringing back Tony La Russa. So I don't know. Maybe I could make an argument for that. All right, first base.
Okay, so this is where it gets a little murky for Sox fans, because someone listening right now says, oh, it's got to be Frank, right? Well, I'm old enough to remember when Frank could not turn the 3-6-3 double play. The big arm could not whip it over to second base anymore. It would go out to left field. One of the best right-handed hitters I've ever seen. However, Konerko has to be in that spot at first base. Has to, and I love Greg Walker too.
I do. I'm both.
But Konerko, the World Series championship, giving Reinsdorf the ball at the celebration. Class act, Konerko at first base.
I have Greg Walker written down as like my runner up, because he was the first guy like ever. I was like, man, I love that guy. Number 29, he was a starting lineup figurine. In the stretch, it's definitely Paul Konerko. Like that guy. The Mike Cameron trade is one of the greatest trades in the history of the Chicago White Sox, because it got them Paul Konerko, and underrated defensive first baseman. I thought he got screwed out of at least being Gold Glove finalist multiple times. The guy could pick it left and right, and probably just the most unassuming White Sox of all time. Really, like he didn't look like a guy who's going to hit 40 home runs and drive in 100 and just have a statue in left field. He hit the second most important home run, probably the grand slam and the Pods walk-off are forever etched in White Sox lore. But Paul Konerko, man, 100% likable, lovable, stayed true, was loyal, took a 5-year, $60 million extension, then a 3-year, I think 30 on top. Never wanted to leave, never did. Heroes welcome. Paul Konerko runs away with this to me. And not to say there's not a spot for Frank. Frank is the best right-handed hitter these eyes have ever seen. So it's just Paul Konerko's first base wise for me, because I can still find a place for Frank. Paul Konerko's the guy. Second base.
Well, never meet your heroes, but it's Ray Durham. Ray was synonymous with the card game. When the coaches said, "Hey man, get your infield." Yep, be right there. I'm standing there. 30 minutes later, he's still like, "Gin." So Never mind it at 6 o'clock for a 7 o'clocker. Yeah, Durham by default is the best second baseman I've seen in a White Sox uniform. Wasn't a big fan personally, but when he was at the top of the lineup, he was cooking.
I thought that beforehand, I thought you were going to say Ray Durham after you told me like, oh, don't meet your heroes. I'm like, okay, that dude had a 21-4 WAR as a White Sox.
No question.
He was one of the more. There's two players, and I'll mention the next one next because we're going to go to shortstop. I think there's two of them. He's one of the most underrated White Sox of all time, in my opinion. That guy can play. He can pick it. All-star, Gold Glove. I think he won a Gold Glove with the White Sox.
I believe you're correct.
No, he did not. Wow. 2-time All-Star with the White Sox. Probably got screwed out of a Gold Glove too. Ray Durham is he's the guy. How about short?
It's Ozzie Guillen.
It's Ozzie Guillen.
Or Scott Fletcher. No, it's Ozzie. And here's the thing. Who had more hits with the White Sox in the 9th spot than Ozzie?
Nobody.
I think that he leads,
I don't think anybody in history, honestly. I think he's the leader all time in the 9th spot.
Which is bizarre, right?
It is bizarre.
But could pick it at shortstop and just an igniter for that locker room. Never mind him as a manager and help my favorite team win a World Series championship in my lifetime. Just the fact is that he was an igniter on the teams when he played. The numbers are not eye-popping, but the consistency is there.
And he's a cap. I mean, that guy, it's you go, we go. He was you go, we go. I wrote Jose Valentin in parentheses because he's my other underrated. Sure. I loved Jose Valentin. That dude I loved him. I loved that he embraced, did the thing to Sammy Sosa in the camera. It's definitely Ozzie. This is a situation where you say never meet your heroes. I say meet them because then you find a guy like Ozzie Guillen.
Yeah.
And when I was a little kid, I would get autographs before the games all the time. And there were the same two players, no matter what, would sign every single time. And I always brought 5 cards of each. And it was the Pope Don Paul.
Yeah.
And it was Ozzie Guillen. And I still, to this day, I showed Ozzie at one point. I'm like, these are cards you signed as a kid. And of course, he gave me a lot of shit because we're friends. But that guy cares more about people and kids and everything else. So what a great experience for a young White Sox fan that I got. And the amount to work with him all these years later and see what he does and it puts the smiles on the kid's face. Ozzie Guillen is far and away the answer, not just at shortstop, but in terms of White Sox ambassador, probably my favorite. So
absolutely,
we're both on the same page there. Third base.
It is Robin Ventura.
That's it.
Yep. It's Robin. I wish he hadn't managed the ball club, even though Kenny Williams twisted his arm. He did not want to manage the White Sox. And he says, you got to do it. And, I try to ignore that 1-loss record for Robin because it's hard to manage when you're sleeping in a lawn chair. Because those are long days and long seasons, but didn't have much to work with. But I still respect the man for what he brought to the White Sox at third base.
39-4 WAR, 5 Gold Gloves with the White Sox. I have nothing more to add to about Robin Ventura. His managing did not hurt his legacy. No. He had to be peeled off the couch 3 times before he finally said yes. That's not his fault. Robin Ventura was a damn good baseball player. Let's go right field.
Right field's Harold. It's Harold Baines. Never meet your heroes. Harold Baines. He's weekend at Harold's. Put a hat on him and take him out and he'll move around for you and speak. Actually, he's actually more talkative now than he was as a player.
Evidently.
I just remember him as a kid, just like you respected Harold, didn't say much. So it's hard for me to attach myself to Harold as far as a personality because even when he played, it was hard to get a soundbite out of him on the local news. So, but Harold, as far as clutch hits and hitting them on the roof, Harold was it. Think about that time in '83, right? So we're talking about Reggie Theus.
Yep.
We're talking about Harold Baines. You got maybe some Blackhawks from some of those times, but Harold was synonymous with some of the great players of that era before Jordan came here. So Harold was it. People had his poster, and he spoke as much as his posters on the kids' walls.
Harold's a great one. I love Harold Baines now. Like I got to know him, and he is just the salt of the earth human beings. One of the nicest, sweetest men you could ever meet. I started liking Harold on the back end. That weird trade where they retired his number and they had the ceremony while he was playing for the Rangers was one of the weirdest things ever. I'm putting Mags I think Magglio Ordonez is probably my favorite right fielder. That dude, he just didn't get nationally. That was like at the time as a Sox fan, like 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, where I was like pissed off that no one talked about the White Sox. Like I had that like 20-year-old era, like the White Sox, no one talks about them. We don't get seen on Sports Center. And Magglio Ordonez was just a dude going out every single night. You know, I thought he was going to be the White Sox right fielder for like a decade, and the White Sox made the right move. Another dude, like I'm looking at WAR, and I know it's not the end-all be-all, but like this was his slash line with the White Sox: 307, 364, 525. That dude can hit baseball. So Magglio Ordonez was fun. Multiple sluggers or silver sluggers, multiple All-Star games, and it worked out for both. They moved on. He was runner-up for MVP for the Tigers, and the White Sox got Jermaine Dye. But Dye is he was like it was hard not to write him down, but Magglio Ordonez, like that guy was a baseball player.
How many years with the Tigers?
Magglio Ordonez played 7 years with Detroit, 8 years with the White Sox.
The Sox should bring him in.
100%.
You should do more Sox Fest and like have a Mags Day. I understand he spent a lot of time with the Tigers, put some nice numbers with the Tigers. The injury hurt, I know.
Big time hurt.
Did he go to Germany to get that whole thing fixed?
I think he did, like the platelet transplant. Like, yeah. I mean, you look at Hoodie, like he was 294 homers, a career 309 batting average, and 871 OPS. Like this dude was a dude.
Sox should bring him in. They should bring him in.
Plus, like, isn't that the whole idea of like Sox Fest and like weekends is like the taking of generations, and it's like, hey, there's a 46-year-old dad with his kid, with his 15-year-old son. Oh, this player you should check him out. 20 years ago, he was awesome. It's like that's the whole point. That's why like you have Tadahito Iguchi managing in Japan, bring in Murakami. All right, center field.
Boy, this is tough.
It is
because I love One Dog so much, man. I love One Dog so much. This is tough.
One Dog.
I love One Dog. I love Aaron Rowan because he would always buy at the bar. So he was always fun and for a lot of different races. And I love Rudy Law too.
Oh yeah.
So this was tough. I'm a One Dog guy. And I love Rudy Law too because he had 77 stolen bases in '83. I think they think that's the number.
I think it is.
But he was the igniter for that '83 team. I love Rudy Law. But I'm leaning Lance Johnson.
You are. 77 is correct. You are going One Dog.
He was fun, man.
I
know that's 4 years with One Dog. I feel like 91 to 90.
Well, he was on those great, fun, like White Sox teams you thought were going to win the World Series. Plus, 8 years with the White Sox. I mean, he played 14, but 8 with I didn't realize he played 8 years. It was a 20-plus WAR player. He was a really good player, man. He led the league in triples 4 straight years. I mean, come on, man.
He was part of those tour board teams that you thought that can get through. The 90 team is one of my favorite teams that didn't make the playoffs.
100. If they would have had expanded playoffs back then, they could have won the World Series.
They were good, and I like Jeff. I like Jeff as a manager.
All right, so I'm shocked you didn't pick Luis Robert.
Oh yeah,
I'm going Aaron Rowan for all of the reasons you mentioned, man. And I will say this about Aaron Rowan. Shockingly, the two of us gravitated towards each other. If Ryan McGuffey were a Major League Baseball player, he'd be Aaron Rowan.
Yes.
And so
that's right.
And I think that's it. I think that's why Aaron Rowan is my pick for center field. Like bloodied into the wall, doesn't give a shit about where the next, like just buys beers for wants to be just kind of one with there it is. If Ryan McGuffey were, it equals see Aaron Rowan. That's it.
There's a lot of choices for center field, by the way, and
there are.
Shout out to like Chris Singleton is a favorite of mine too.
Oh yeah,
I like Chris Singleton a lot, man. I was too close to a lot of those teams, probably a little too close at times.
I think I just took your baton after you were done and became close to some of those teams, and a lot of them were pretty fun.
Yeah,
but there were some guys I could punt into the sun.
Yeah, no doubt.
So left field. As many center fielders as there are, left field's a little bit different.
Okay, I'm gonna need some help here because
I think I need some help too.
We get 8 or 9 because I can go Abreu, No, I can go Tim Raines is what I wrote down first.
Tim Raines is a good one.
So Tim Raines is part of that 93 team. I loved him with the Expos as a kid. You know, you got an all-black outfield. You got Valentine, Cromartie, Raines, and it's like, what do you brothers do up at Montreal? What are you doing here? But nonetheless, that because I knew about Raines in Montreal and he was part of my team, the 93 team, the tough-ass Sox with Ellis Burks and all these guys, like I like Tim Raines a lot. And he played left field. I think out of position, though, right? I mean, he was.
But there's a lot of White Sox guys that have played left field out of position.
Yeah, but I like Raines. I think 4-year run with the Sox, I really like Tim Raines.
Tim Raines had a five-year run with the White Sox. Pretty good. Other than Montreal, pretty good. It helped his Hall of Fame status for sure. His White Sox. I lost you. I lost your mic. My point was so valid that Hoodie just nodded off.
I like Tim personally.
Tim Raines, that's a really good one. All right, so I'm not going to steal it because it's a really good one. My first White Sox game I mentioned in left field, there was a Darryl. It was a rain delay, drunk fest. A guy ran down, slid on the tarp. I'm like, we need to come to more of these. And Darryl Boston was my first memory of left field for the White Sox. Not my pick. Pasetnik is wants Scotty Pods and what he did to help transform that team. It's certainly be a sexy pick in more ways than one.
Of course. My
player for left field is going to be Ivan Calderon. Because Ivan Calderon, I said I was a big 86 to 89. There were so many of those pivotal games I watched. There was a really bad post-Hawk Harrelson GM team. Mm-hmm. And Ivan Calderon was the one constant. He led the team in homers one year with 14. But he was always smiling. He had the Jerry curl thing going. And he just looked like a baseball player that was miscast on the South Side. Yeah. And I'm like, man, that guy is awesome. And so because of what he it's my favorite team. Pods is one of my favorite people. But Ivan Calderon was a bridge to those 90s teams in left field. So Ivan Calderon, rest in peace, is my pick for left field. No,
I loved Ivan Calderon. 3 buttons down. You can see the chains, the chest hair out.
That was literally he was kind of a not the talent of Dick Allen, but you could have seen him with that Bill Melton, Dick Allen team, or that 83 team, but not the 90s team. So he kind of got miscast, just born in a wrong spot. That's just the way I looked at him.
Famous catch at Tiger Stadium?
Famous catch at Tiger Stadium, 100%. Okay. Yeah.
Climb the wall at Tiger Stadium?
That old wall where you could still watch through the window type thing.
Yeah. See? The mind still works. See that? Strong. Still got that. I love Ivan Calderon.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we both liked each other's answers. DH is the easiest answer of all time, right? It's the greatest hitter of all time in franchise history.
That's right. Greg Luzinski. No, it's the Bull. Yes.
You were going Kittle. I went with Kittle because he gave me no, I'm kidding. I didn't.
I mean, don't let Kittle watch this. Because he'll get on our ass, man.
I gave you a damn ride to the game.
No, it's Frank, man. And again, this is why Konerko's at first. Because if we put Frank at first, then we can't put Konerko anywhere. That doesn't work. So
Konerko wasn't a DH; he was the first baseman.
So that's why. And again, we have so many favorites that did so many great things for the White Sox from our timeline of watching the White Sox. But there's only very few slots, as we know. So I think we nailed them.
I can certainly attest to this. I think our list was more educated and defined than Vasgersian and Harold Reynolds. No disrespect to them, but it's a little disrespect to their list. Shulich Joe, come on.
Just so the listeners and the viewers know, McGuffey really was thinking about Gary Reedus in center field. He was thinking about it.
Dude, again, starting lineup figurine that his was sliding in the second. I loved, but Dave Gallagher kind of caught my eye a little bit too. So and I really debated Fred Manrique at second base. So
he was thinking about it, folks. Just so you know, it was on his mind.
It was on my mind. Hoodie, this has been awesome. A little 2-for-1 podcast action. You and I are going to get together a little bit more here coming up. Mm-hmm. And look forward to let's be honest. Look forward to what the White Sox do the rest of the way as they get into pitchers and catchers, it should be interesting. We both believe and know that there's more to add. So whether the White Sox have more room in the belt to allow that to happen, TBD. But that puts a bow on this edition of the White Sox Recap Podcast. For Jonathan Hood, I'm Guff. Make sure if you don't already subscribe, what are you doing? Subscribe. Hit the notification bell, and every time a new episode drops, boom, you get the notification. And for those of you listening to audio form only, you're not seeing Jonathan Hood put on his Milwaukee Brewers, his fan of the National League, his team of the National League, his fan. This is not the county stadium, Milwaukee Brewers. This is the former American Family Field, or whatever the hell it's called now. For Hoodie, I'm Guff. Thanks for watching this edition and listening to this edition of the White Sox Recap Podcast.
So long, everybody.